Hey, how's it going, everybody? JT here on behalf of the Ethfinance Community on Reddit, the EV Mavericks on Discord. We have our good friend Paul Brody is returning for episode 85 for this November 1st, 2024. How you doing, Paul? Good to see you again.
I am good. I feel really good, especially because I just circled the globe in 8 days, and I had 8 hours of sleep in my own bed last night, and it is better than any drug I have ever consumed. 8 hours of sleep in your own bed is glorious.
Well, not only that, just seeing you on the podcast again improves my quality of life today by a strong 8.5%. So we are up and to the right on the happiness scale. So thanks so much for carving some time out. And before we get to you and all of your world travels and endeavors, we got to do our intro. The Weekly Doots live stream is all about showcasing the best of the week from the Ethfinance community on Reddit. This is a read-along reaction series, and if you want to follow along, head to dailydoots.com, designed and produced by our very own Hanny Abu. Big thanks to Tricky Troll for capturing and curating each day's Doots, and the A-Word for curating this beloved weekly list. Subscribe to us on Apple and iTunes. Just search Ethfinance EV Mavericks. Also available on Libsyn, Spotify, and wherever you get your podcasts. Mint this episode at pods.media/EV Mavericks. It's free to do so, and it's our own little way to give you an audio POAP. If you're watching my stream on my second monitor here on Discord, be sure to mute this window to avoid any echoes. And as always, if you know someone who wants to get in on a piece of this action, send them my way. Well, let's jump right in. We're going to look at our upcoming guests. November 22nd, Nico from Lotto PGF. December 6th, we got Mac from Kiwi News. I'm also going to get Megan Nab from, is it Franklin? I'm trying to remember the name of her company.
Yes, it is Franklin, and she's amazing.
Yes, she is, and she's going to be joining us on a future episode sometime in December. So we're it'll be her first time to join our podcast, and she's just such a lovely person. I can't wait to talk to her. All right, well, here we go. The morning roundup. Johnny Dapp chimes in. Ethereum Benito 2030 gives us a dismal price of 2501 USD, and Frank the Tank with a miserable ratio at 0.0361. Our weekly haiku by courtesy of JS Tears. Blockchain underneath, the best asset to bequeath. The ticker is ETH. JS Tears. How does he do it? How do you do that? Every single week. Great job. And Clam Chota reminds us, ETH, take my energy. Our shit post of the week, because we always like to save the best for first. Crypto Wow Currency writes, since lately it seems like chains with less technology pump more, I suggest we remove some technology from Ethereum. Roll back 1559. Go back to proof of work. Actually, we could get rid of the blockchain aspect altogether since nobody seems to care. We could run it in an SQL database, or we could even get rid of the ledger altogether. Ethereum would be a system of IOUs, an unstoppable concept with an N of N decentralization in the minds of its true believers. Everyone should write down how much ETH they have before we get rid of the blockchain. Write them onto little pieces of paper with denominations on them. Do not create any more paper than you actually owned in ETH. Please, that's very important. Then as a replacement for smart contracts, we will talk about what should happen if something happens, and then you shake hands. You need to honor every agreement you shook on. If everyone promises to do that, this might just work. This plan flips the script on Bitcoin because now Ethereum has the fewest amount of moving parts. Now Ethereum is the most dependable. If something has no code, it can't have bugs in it. If something has no development, its roadmap cannot be compromised. If something is only an idea, it cannot be shut down. In other words, the Ethereum Foundation touts, quote, philosophy of subtraction, unquote. But does it really walk the walk? I challenge them to dream smaller. That is absolutely fantastic. Crypto Owl Currency. You know what? Crypto Owl Currency is up on our big leaderboard. We got to do our leaderboard. Paul, since you were here last, we have almost 1,100 duders that have made the list at least one time. In our top 10, Hanny Abu's at 92, Ethical Trade at 99, Set One Less at 103, Crypto Currency at 104, 696 ETH at 107, Harog at 120, Tricky Troll at 126, Logri the Bard at 152, tied with Benito 2030 also at 152, and the almighty everlasting man himself, Superfist, sits atop the leaderboard at 218. All right, we're going to bring this conversation full circle right around to Paul Brody, EY, global blockchain leader, world traveler. He's been to 8 continents in 8 days, and he got to sleep in his own bed. And just look at the radiant brilliance this man possesses. Welcome back to the show.
Thank you for having me. It's good to be back. I will confess, I've not been to 8 continents. I've been around the world in 8 days, which is really just as bad. And I got home last night at around 8 p.m. and it was so nice to crawl. I just crawled into bed and spent 8 hours there, and I feel like an entirely new person.
That's awesome. So you'll probably be starting another triathlon soon. I'm assuming with all this energy. Yeah.
Golden Gate half marathon Sunday.
There you go. Golden Gate half marathon Sunday. So if any of you are in the Bay Area, go cheer him on. All right. So what do you want to talk about? I know I got a couple of questions from Hanny Abu on Reddit, but I want to let you kick it off. You've got DevCon plans coming together. We've got everything you've been doing at the, I don't even know if a whole lot of people know about your involvement at the EEA. EY's doing stuff with PayPal. What is happening in your world?
Yes, so many things are happening in my world, and I was making a note of various things that I would actually share with you. So I'll give you a bunch of updates. First of all, my night job. I am the chairman of the Enterprise Ethereum Alliance, the EEA, and we're kind of like the business group that represents Ethereum users, Ethereum business users. And so I've been the chairman since January of this year, kind of brought in to help re-energize things with, I don't know, karma and vibes. Probably, but whatever it is, it's working. So we just put out a bit of a press release a couple of days ago. 18 new members this year. So this is really the first time in several years that membership is growing quite substantially, and really awesome members. Accenture. I mean, I know they're my competitor in my day job, but they're quite an excellent company. Circle has joined.
Oh, wow.
Plume Network, which is a real world assets kind of layer 2 network. Tons of really awesome companies. Emertech, which is a really cool Indian company that's working on like one of the best applications of like anti-corruption stuff I've seen. So fantastic new membership stuff for the EA, number one. And so if you are an Ethereum entrepreneur, please join the EA. It's not that expensive, but the membership is important. And you know, I wanted to talk a little bit about what is the EA doing, and in particular, what are our priorities? Because this is something that I think is actually super important and doesn't get enough attention in the industry. So that's one thing I would love to cover if you got a moment for that, JT.
Heck yeah, we got all the moments. Go ahead.
First thing is that one of my frustrations that we see a lot in the kind of Ethereum ecosystem is there's a lot of negativity towards Ethereum. And to be honest, a lot of the competition of Ethereum have gotten really good at delivering their messaging. They do this great job of delivering their messaging, and I see it all the time. Like you'll go to an event, they'll be like, "Oh, here are the top chains. There's Solana, and then there's Base, and then there's Polygon, and then there's Ethereum." I'm like, guys, you have it all wrong. First of all, Ethereum is not the mainnet. Ethereum is the mainnet plus all the L2s. That is Ethereum. And when we talk about Ethereum and we add them all up together, and right as we were starting this conversation, I was looking for this chart I made, but I added up on a whole bunch of metrics. I looked at the whole ecosystem, not just an L1 or a single L2. When you add up the whole ecosystem on almost every measure, Ethereum is really, really dominant. And so one of my missions as the chair of the EEA is to take the message about Ethereum's success and dominance into the marketplace and talk about the Ethereum ecosystem as a whole, not one individual piece. And don't let people slice and dice this data in front of you and pretend that Base or Arbitrum is somehow not part of Ethereum. It is, right? So maybe that's kind of my number one priorities. we as an ecosystem need to speak with one voice about the whole ecosystem. I thank you, honey. That is super important. And I tell people all the time, like, I am bullish on Ethereum, and the data, right? When you look at the data, it thoroughly supports being bullish on Ethereum. Now, the second thing is, and you talked about this in your opening intro, people are frustrated with the price of Ethereum. And I get this. Like, my uncle texts me, like, I feel like weekly. He's like, you told me to invest in Ethereum.
Right.
Like, why am I not rich yet? And I am dreading
Yeah, I
Thanksgiving,
was gonna
where
say.
I'm going to see my uncle, and he's going to ask me, like, I don't understand Coinbase. Why am I not rich? This flow will be, I guarantee you.
It's good.
So,
It's gonna be like, hey, will you pass me the gravy? And they'll say no.
he's going to be like, yeah, he's like, what kind of gas fees are you willing to pay to have the
Right.
gravy passed to
Do you
you?
want-
Right.
I just want one blob of gravy, please.
Yeah, exactly. That's perfect. If he knew what a blob was, he would do that to me. Fortunately, he doesn't. But I think so. One thing but so people are frustrated about the price of ETH, and this is also something where I would really ask all of you to like reframe your thinking about the price of ETH, because the low price of ETH is a sign of success, not a sign of failure. And let me try to explain why. Unlike Bitcoin, which is pitched as this like asset, Ethereum it's a world computer, it's a transaction processing engine, and the problem with like a really high price of ETH is that in many cases it's indicative of uh, significant transaction volume constraints and very high gas fees. The reason that the price of ETH isn't where people want it to be is because gas fees are really low, and that has a huge impact on kind of the yield from ETH as a staking asset. But the reality is that if you want billions of users, every major corporation on earth to be on ETH, those gas fees need to stay low, and they need to grow. And the success of ETH, what's happening is you're having this like short-term downward pressure because gas fees are low, but that's really because capacity is enormously bigger. Like, one thing you'll never hear people complain about anymore is like, oh my God, gas fees are too high, or geez, there's not enough capacity in Ethereum for me to bring my business onto it. That is a long-term indicator of success. And so if you are frustrated about the price of ETH, I think it's because your time horizon is too short, not because there's something wrong with Ethereum.
Well, there's also a messaging issue with, like the ETF. Somebody had shared on the daily, like internal communications at one of the ETF providers, and they basically they just don't do a good job of explaining the value proposition of Ethereum with all of the, like you said, you got to roll in together, all of the L2s and all the activity. They're not expressing that. They're comparing it to Bitcoin, and that's not the right comparison.
It's not. It's absolutely not the right comparison. Ethereum is the standard. The entire world is going to be built on and run around Ethereum. When you hear people like BlackRock and others talking about what's going on, they're not talking. They do talk about Bitcoin as the asset, and I want to be clear. Like the future of Bitcoin it's digital gold, and if you want an asset like that's what Bitcoin is going to deliver. But if you want a computing platform for smart assets, tokenized assets, it's going to be Ethereum. Ethereum is going to be absolutely dominant. I don't think I've ever been more bullish in my entire life about Ethereum. So that's maybe the first thing I wanted to share. Second thing I want to share is around Industry Day. So quite a few of you, I hope, are going to go to DEF CON in Thailand. I'm headed back to Asia on Tuesday night. And after I came back to do my half marathon and to fill in my ballot. And everybody should vote. Please vote. But I'm going back to Asia in Bangkok. DevCon is the 12th to the 15th of November. On the 11th of November, we're having the EEA's first ever Industry Day.
Oh.
And it's the first time. So EA, we do these meetups at like a ton of events, but this is the first time we've done, I'll call it, a proper conference where we're asking people to come, and we have just honestly the most ridiculous speaker lineup for an event in one day. We've got more than 20 like CEOs. We have, of course, me, Vitalik Buterin, right? Can't do a big event without Vitalik. He's going to be there. But we have, we got Megan Nab. You mentioned her from Franklin. She is
That's
so
right.
awesome. I cannot, she's doing great work in terms of like building infrastructure that makes blockchain usable for real companies. But we've got Sandy Peng, she's the co-founder of Scroll, Nana Murugesan, who's the president of Matter Labs, Luke Philippin, who's the CEO of Tokeny, Nina Rong from Arbitrum, Marek Olzowski, I butcher his name, but he is the CEO of Cello, and I think just super brilliant. We've got Zach Williamson from Aztec. They're just about to take their wraps up their new privacy protocol, which is incredible. Rune Christensen from Sky or MakerDAO. We have Patricio from POAP. He's going to give a keynote. I mean,
That's cool.
it's Kevin Owaki.
Oh, yeah. Oh, you're breaking up, or am I breaking up? I hope I'm not breaking up. Can anybody confirm in chat? Is this me or Paul? Okay, Paul breaking
It's
up.
it's $39 for the day.
Hey, Paul, you were
Can you hear me?
Yeah, you were breaking up a little just for the last 15 seconds. Can you? Okay, so we got. You said Patricio's coming, Kevin Owaki's coming, and then after that, you were talking about tickets and pricing.
Yes, $39 for the full day, the 11th of November, and the website is eeaday.org.
eeaday.org. Let's go ahead and pop that up here. Yep, there we go. 11/11/24. One day. There you go. There's the list of speakers. Some guy named Vitalik's going to be there. Not sure who that is.
Yeah,
Very cool.
he's batting cleanup. Vitalik's batting cleanup. I'm opening, and we've got a ton of amazing. It's just ridiculous how many brilliant people we have coming.
This is fantastic. And yeah, $39 is nothing for all that. That is an incredible amount of. Oh, Michael Casey he's great. I remember Michael Casey talking at an EY event in New York. He's just fun to listen to. He's such a good presenter.
He is, and he's on to a new thing now, which is distributed AI. So he's looking at decentralized AI and physical infrastructure, and I think it's going to be kind of incredible.
So he left CoinDesk then, or is he still a contributor, or was he at CoinDesk?
No, he's left Coinbase. He was executive editor of CoinDesk, and now he's the chairman of the Decentralized AI Society.
Gotcha. Okay, got it. Awesome. Okay, so I don't know if you want to switch gears. I would like.
I do.
Go ahead.
I've got 1 minute update, and then I want to talk to you about SAP.
Cool.
And the cool things that are happening there. So one, just super quick update. Many of you remember me being shamelessly promotional about my book, Ethereum for Business. I just got my first royalty check, which is hard to believe. Like, it's been a year. I got my first royalty check. Thank you, sir. And I sent it all to Gitcoin.
Oh, wow.
I sent it all to Gitcoin. So if you decide to buy a copy of this book, then all the royalties go to Gitcoin.
Quadratic royalties. There you go. That's fantastic. Good on you.
And let me get to the main event. So here's where I think something super meaningful and important has happened in the last couple months, which is, so of all the use cases out there that have really sort of gained traction and had momentum, payments is the one, right? And we are on the eve of what I think is going to be pretty much the biggest wave of growth in the B2B space for Ethereum. It's going to be all about payments in stablecoins for business users. And about 3 weeks ago, EY received the first business-to-business on-chain payment of PayPal's PY US dollar stablecoins. And what was particularly cool about this is we've been receiving payments for a while on a kind of one-off basis. But in this case, what happened was PayPal inside of their SAP ERP system, the ERP system which controls basically 90% of the world's biggest companies, they ran an automated transaction, but instead of it going through their system and to a bank account, it went through their system to PayPal's PYUS dollar, and it sent a payment automatically to EY's institutional Coinbase account.
Oh my. Okay.
And the reason this is a big deal is that everybody who's on this thing everybody who's on this live stream, they know on-chain payments rails are way cheaper than traditional banking rails, and they're much faster. What they don't probably know is that they're pretty much pointless if you don't have automation, right? If you have to have a bunch of human beings manually handle inside of a company like special features for a transaction, your ROI is dead. But what SAP has done is they have built into their ERP system kind of three really important things that really change the game. Number one, full integration with an SAP wallet or an institutional wallet like a Coinbase. So wallet or institutional payment partner integration. Number two, full support for stablecoin payments in their automated process flow, right? So you can just trigger a stablecoin payment instead of a traditional banking payment. And number three, working with EY, we have laid out the roadmap for all the things that you have to do from a regulatory compliance perspective to be fully compliant with the law. So with those kind of pieces in place, large companies can now automate their stablecoin transactions and save a lot of money. And to give you a sense, right, we did an internal study and we found that if we were able to move all our payments to stablecoin rails, which we can't because a lot of our clients and business partners can't do that yet. But if we could save up to $100 million a year just at EY. So I think this is a really big deal. I think it's going to trigger a wave of growth around like stablecoins and B2B payments. And if you ask me for my prediction, I would say that one of the big stories of 2025 is going to be explosive growth in stablecoin payments.
Yeah. It's already happening in several countries around the world. And you talked about the regulatory side of things. That makes total sense, because if anybody out there, I mean, everybody in here they have to do the KYC to get on the exchange, to connect the bank. Well, for institutions, it's even more like robust. And it's like PayPal has their set of standards, EY has their set of standards, and then the regulators have the playground that everybody needs to play in. And there's so much pressure on, politically, regulatory, the SEC, like all this stuff. Everybody's got to really kind of keep their nose clean. So it sounds great that the way I'm understanding it is you guys have built out the template for others to follow and embrace this as an option. So that's really cool.
We built the process template, and then SAP has built the hard coding. So like if you're inside of SAP and you receive a stablecoin payment now, it automatically updates your cash balance.
Yeah, and I remember, this is kind of wax poetic, but the everything has come full circle, because I remember when us degens were hanging out on the ETH Trader and the EEA got started, and we would look at like the companies that were coming on board to the EEA, and it was just like, see, they're doing it, they're coming, and you would see the price would move at every announcement. But it's like the circle has complete now. These companies that are involved are really doing it, at the very real level. And it's just, I don't know, it's kind of neat to see it all come together at the enterprise level, and I can't wait. I can't wait for more of it. This is really cool. Good on you.
And you mentioned there were a couple questions that came up.
Yeah, Hani Abu wanted to know if there's a version 5 planned for Nightfall.
Oh yes, there is a version 5 planned for Nightfall. We have a couple more announcements coming for version 4. So the goal is that by early next year, version 4 will be in a production beta. And then the engineering work on version 5 is just about to get started. And version 5, I'm quite excited about because we're hopeful at this stage to combine Starlight and Nightfall together and to make use of some of these new uh, folding. There's like a new type of mathematical folding curve, and please don't ask me to explain it because I don't understand it. But these new folding curves basically allow you to do significantly new awesome things with privacy technology, and we're seeing a bit of a like a privacy tech boom, which is very exciting. So there will be a version 5, and in the meantime version 4 is going to production beta, and we have some cool announcements coming up on that as well. And I think we'll have also one cool AI related product announcement in December.
Okay, so that satisfies Hanny's second question: is do you have any other products besides Nightfall and ops chain traceability? So you dropped the big one there, AI potential, huh?
Yes, well, we doing analytics. So we have our like blockchain analytics tool, which is heavily used by audit people. We have our blockchain analytics tool is in use by Fidelity for their kind of
Mm.
transaction verification process. We also have, and not many people know, but we have a smart contract review and testing tool, which is what other people call smart contract audits. And so there's that. We're going to add an AI to one of our blockchain tools. I don't want to spill the beans too much on that. And then we just finished a really important proof of concept where we are working through the mechanics of full traceability and supply chain management under privacy on public Ethereum. And I'm very hopeful that with this particular client, we'll go from the proof of concept to we've shown them it can work. Next step is do a pilot with real data. And then after that gets production.
Fantastic. And I want to also mention anybody on YouTube that's watching right now, if you got any questions, drop them in the chat. I'll be sure to answer them. I want to be respectful of Paul's time for sure. Do you have a few more minutes?
Absolutely. I'm good for another 15, 20 minutes.
Oh, perfect. Hanny, Hanny, if you want to unmute, you can ask Paul directly. Or you just type it in the chat.
Paul.
There he is. Good.
You mentioned PayPal's PYUSD being integrated into SAP. I know that they are integrated with Ethereum as well as Solana. And I was just kind of curious, since you have the insider view, how seriously do these companies view Solana? And from an outside point of view, it kind of feels like they're unaware of the nuances between Ethereum and Solana.
Yeah, honestly, like one of the things that's frustrating and depressing for me is I talk to people and they're like, what about Solana? They take Solana very seriously. And this is one of the reasons why we've got to do a much better job messaging around the value proposition of Ethereum and why it's the ecosystem as a whole.
Are they hearing about Solana just from word of mouth, or are there BD teams, biz dev teams reaching out to them?
Solana has a very aggressive and assertive business development team. They are really well organized. They do an excellent job, and they're just the Ethereum Foundation's kind of subtraction philosophy and their sort of non-commercial philosophy is excellent, right? And I love that. And if you ask me about which of these entities has a real clear like public service capability and so on, I will say hands down the Ethereum Foundation has the most mature kind of engineering viewpoint. They have the most mature public service viewpoint, things like that. But Solana's strength is BD and assertive BD. And one of the things I want the EEA to do, and one of the things I'm really proud to do at the EEA, is take the assertive messaging to the market about the Ethereum ecosystem as a whole.
Has there been any coordination between L2 companies to try and coordinate with them and utilizing their biz dev teams to organize around this?
We are actually, the EEA and the Ethereum Foundation are working together to kind of put together exactly some kind of initiative like that, where we sort of align the L2s. One of the things that the L2s also need to do is they need to start shifting a little bit how they talk about their business. right now, if you go and look, and I pulled together this data, and it's frustrating me that I had a couple of slides on this, but if you look at that kind of L2 ecosystem, something like 40% of the L2s say that they are universal L2s. Well, universal means everything to everybody. I really think that the L2s themselves would benefit enormously from laying out some level of specialization. I've written a little bit about this in my sort of Coinbase op-eds, but we need L2s that are RWA focused. We should have L2s that are decentralized AI focused. We should have L2s that are focused on ultra high security, full decentralization, and others that are focused on ultra low transaction costs, right? And that will help a lot for businesses to understand, given the use case, which L2 should I look at, right? Because 40 L2s that are just basically identical and not differentiated, I don't think in the long run is super helpful for the industry.
Appreciate that. And going back to one of your earlier comments, you mentioned the price of ETH is good because it shows that it's scaling. Does the inverse of that mean the same to you, that if the price of ETH increases, that it's bad? And are you in the ETH is money camp, or the opposite?
I'm not in. I'm not in the ETH is money camp. I'm in the ETH is a computing platform camp, right? I think in the long run, the price of ETH could well go up as people come to realize it's the absolutely dominant platform. But in the short run, I think people's expectations might be a little bit too high in terms of like what's going on. And one huge problem out there, and I see this every time I get invited on CNBC, people ask me to comment on the price of Bitcoin and Ethereum as if they're the same, and they're just not. They're wildly different things.
So in other words, do you see them as you see it as mutually exclusive, it being money and being a world computing platform?
Uh I That's a tough question. Here's the thing about money, right? We have money already, and I think this is why stablecoins are going to be so dominant because the when you when you want to go into a coffee shop and buy a cup of coffee, you really want the price of coffee today to be the same as the price of coffee was yesterday, or very similar. And so stability of pricing is actually a key foundation for money. It makes things easy to understand and retain over time. And that's not consistent with that of an investment asset. That's one thing that's really important. Second, and this is something that super frustrates me about both the Ethereum conversation and the Bitcoin conversation, is people assume that reducing the supply is good because it makes the asset scarcer and the price go up, right? And they love that price go up narrative. Here's the problem: deflationary assets, and that's what a price go up type of asset is extremely bad for the economy. If you go and study like the Great Depression, one of the things that turned what was a pretty bad recession in like 1930 into a depression was a deflationary asset price go up policy by central banks. And Matt, if the entire world went onto a Bitcoin or a deflationary asset standard, we would be locking ourselves into a permanent global recession. And the reason for that, there are two reasons for that. Number one, if you have money and you expect the value of your money to go up, should you save it or spend it? The answer is you should save it because it's worth more tomorrow than it is today. That's a very bad thing because it causes people to stop spending and collapses demand. Secondly, central banks cannot offer negative interest rates to pump up the economy when real interest rates are already negative. So if inflation annually is, say, 3%, and central banks reduce their interest rate to below 3%, they're basically paying you money to spend money, to borrow money. And this is hugely important. It's what happened, well, it's what always happens during recessions. Where we had a potentially massive crisis in 2008 was that basically inflation was zero, and in theory, central banks cannot get interest rates below zero. And so what Ben Bernanke did was really genius. He said, you know what? I can't lower interest rates below zero, but I can just buy everything in sight, right? I can do this thing called quantitative easing. And many people are super negative about it, but if you really understand economics, you understand what Ben Bernanke did was absolutely brilliant. And for those of you who don't know the history of Ben Bernanke, who was the chairman of the Federal Reserve at the time of the Great Recession, He was a university economics professor, and his lifelong field of study was the Great Depression. And he had spent his whole life trying to understand, like, what were the mistakes that we made that turned the recession into the Great Depression. And he's the chairman of the Fed at the time of a similarly big recession. No one had ever done quantitative easing before. He did it, and he saved the United States and probably the entire world from a second Great Depression. And so this obsession with, like, making things more scarce and raising the price of things is not consistent with kind of what economists know about the way money should operate if we want it to work well.
I couldn't agree more, and I realized that there was a nomenclature issue where I think when people say ETH is money, typically they refer to that as another way to say store of value. At least that's my perception from what I've seen in discussions.
I like the
I've
idea of
never
ETH as an investment.
I've never seen anyone asking Jimmy Johns to denominate their subs in Ether. Like, when people say ETH is money, they don't mean ETH is currency, generally. They maybe within the Ethereum ecosystem, we see NFTs and whatnot priced in ETH. We see other tokens priced in ETH. But that is because of it's the least trusted, or it's the most trustless option. So if you're to route between something, it's the one that takes the less risks. But if I swap from USDC to Uni because I want to buy that and it goes through ETH, I'm not holding ETH at any point. But there is risk in the asset I'm transiting through. So it makes sense within our ecosystem that being the trustless asset, that it's the thing that things are denominated against. But what people are holding generally is either an investment and they treat ETH like Microsoft shares or something, or they're holding a little bit of gas, or they're holding stablecoins still, in my experience, as savings.
We got a question off of YouTube. This username from Front Bum Lover 69 asks, do you think it's about time the EF starts focusing a bit on marketing to reach businesses from its core, to inform the differences between ETH and Sol?
So what I'm hoping is that the Ethereum Foundation, working through the EEA, that we will do that. Like the EA, we are brazenly commercial. That's our thing. We shill, right? And so I think the EA, the Ethereum Foundation, has a board seat in the EA. They work very closely with us, and so I recognize both their desire to be very mature and impartial, and their desire to have, like, an assertive go-to-market. And I think the way to do that is to separate who does what and let the EEA be the brazenly commercial, assertive organization that it is. And I feel like I'm a reasonably good kind of I'm a person who is very comfortable standing up in front of business leaders. Actually, I was at Hong Kong FinTech Week last week. I was at a U.S. Embassy sponsored forum at Citibank, and somebody's like, "So what do you think of Solana?" I'm like, "All these chains that are not Ethereum have already lost." I was direct, I was blunt, right? And I think if there's somebody who wants to take that message, I'm a person who wants to take that message to the marketplace.
There you go. This was that's what I feel like. There's this messaging thing that's kind of gotten lost. And I've got a little announcement on behalf of the Ethfinance community, and kind of breaking the seal on this, letting Paul know also. There are 4 moderators now over on our Ethereum. And the long-term goal would be to take what's great about the daily thread on Ethfinance and put it over on our Ethereum. We're getting to know the moderators over there. There has been some struggles on that sub for some time on kind of doing a good job moderating out the spam. And we're hoping to forge a connection with their team and also bring that Ethfinance vibe over to the main technical subreddit. The elephant in the room is that Ethereum Reddit is gone way down in numbers, generally speaking. But I think if we kind of focus our tools on the main technical sub and allow price discussion in a daily thread on the technical sub, I think these two things are going to be something special. Plus, we get to bring the Doots over there eventually. It all remains to be seen, but maybe by this time next time, Paul, next time you're on the podcast, it might be an our Ethereum based event. So we're really honored that you could stop by today. Is there anything else you want to tell the world? If there's any other questions, please unmute or type it in the chat here and we'll get them out there for you.
I would just say, well, if there's any more questions that are appearing, as all of you post, you write stuff, you make charts. I've seen them. When you do this stuff, talk about the Ethereum ecosystem as a whole. Don't let anyone slice and dice it down to just Base or just Arbitrum or just the mainnet. It's the ecosystem as a whole, and that's the apples to apples comparison that we should be making.
I love it. Yeah, there's a bunch of different car manufacturers running around, but they're all driving on Ethereum. So it's like a highway system. I think you're so right about that. It's like you got to say the word Ethereum for people to click. Otherwise, they don't understand that. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It's hard to say base chain, which runs on Ethereum, because that's so many words. You know what I mean? Like how we got to get.
And also, we've had this sort of idiotic like parasite discussion so often, right?
Yes.
Before people were talking about it with the L2s, they were saying, oh, Polygon's proof of stake network is parasitic. They're just going to walk away from Ethereum. If they could have, they would have, right? And I'm not saying there's anything sort of nefarious about the Polygon guys. It's just like, it's not true. It's never been true. And, we're going to have to, when you're number one, everyone's coming after you. And that's what goes on. And kind of how we frame our response is useful in that respect.
Hanny, you got another question? Oh, I see Dr. Eth typing. Welcome in, Dr. Eth.
Yeah, so you mentioned SAP having stablecoin integrations that can go directly to your business accounts. What do you see as the next step after this towards getting enterprise adoption?
So as this gets rolled out into SAP, right? So we're gonna, I'm hoping it's gonna fill our sales pipeline with clients coming to us and saying, "Oh my gosh, we want to move as many payments over to ultra low cost rail." So that's one thing that I really hope will happen, and we'll go forward, and our consultants will go out there and help lots of companies make that transition. Second thing is, I feel like payments are, they are one half of the picture, right? The thing I tell people a lot is like all business agreements boil down to this. You've got money, I've got stuff, and we're exchanging my money for your stuff under the terms of an agreement. Well, the money and the stuff are tokens. If you're storing the money tokens in your SAP or institutional wallet, how about the stuff tokens? The widgets, the inventory, everything. And by the way, let's use things like Starlight to make private smart contracts. And then we have the entire thing running on-chain under privacy. My headphones just died. Can you guys still hear me? I don't know if you can.
Yeah.
All right. So hopefully I've switched back. I've switched back to my screen. So that's my goal. Let's see here, Dr. Eth, L2s with one purpose or another as opposed to generalized networks because they're all the same now. Is that a comment? Are you seconding my other mention, my sort of overall messaging? Yeah, I think I think you are. Yes. So that is, from my perspective, like maturing the L2 ecosystem is tremendously important. It's probably the number one priority that I would like to see, and to get the L2s to speak to the enterprise community kind of with a unified point of view. So what is our value proposition? How can you run your business here? And I'll just give you one example. Like some of our big enterprise clients, to give you a sense, when they talk about putting one product line for full traceability on Ethereum, they are talking about 2 million NFT transactions per day. Now, if you're going to do that, your gas costs need to be like insanely low in order to support that. Now, the plus side of this is on the ultra low gas costs, I would be willing in those circumstances to sacrifice my transaction security. So I could go with a somewhat lower security roll up, because if you steal my widget inventory tokens, you haven't stolen my inventory, you've corrupted my data. But when it comes to payments, I want a much higher level of security. So I could foresee a world where different levels of security are a trade-off I can make for ultra low gas fees. One of the questions I'm going to pose to Vitalik when I see him at Industry Day is I want to ask him, how much differentiation can the different L2s survive without losing our cohesiveness as an overall ecosystem? We've lost our cohesiveness if, for example, a token that works inside of L2A can no longer be bridged or work with L2B. That is too much differentiation, in my opinion. So what are the parameters on which we can move things up and down?
Fantastic.
I'm just curious where enterprises get their information from. Are you aware of any consumer-focused educational sources such as, let's see, like L2Beat or Grow the Pie or Rated Network? Are you aware of any tools that they may be using to get information from?
I'm not. I mean, I certainly know the guys at L2Beat. They're going to be speaking actually at Industry Day to talk about sort of the health of the Ethereum ecosystem. But I don't know. One of the problems with a lot of the educational sources in this whole ecosystem is that they're mostly for experts. And one problem is, like, if you're not an expert already, it's hard to follow some of the discussion.
Oh, we got a floating thumbs up. Wonderful. All right. Dr. Eth is talking in the chat here. L2s are certainly a beautiful evolution of the network that lends itself to bigger purposes in the business space. Paul's comment on the purpose of an L2 being important is a very interesting one, and goes on, L2s with one purpose or another as opposed to generalized networks, because they're all the same now. And yeah, so reinforcing your points there. So very good. Okay. How are you doing on time? Do you want to hang out? I'm going to read Reddit so you don't have to. If we got some time, you could be a color commentator. Paul, if you don't have any time, you could do the Irish goodbye at any point. And I'm looking forward to, hopefully some of these folks will be able to say hi to you in Bangkok and beyond.
I'm going to do the Irish goodbye. I just looked at my calendar, and it says I should Irish goodbye you because I have to be at another meeting in 9 minutes. So I want a bathroom break first, and I'm not going to take the laptop and the camera into the bathroom as a public service to all of you.
Oh, you're the best. Paul, cheers, big hugs from Kansas City, my friend. I will most likely see you at ETH Denver, probably if you're coming to ETH Denver. I've already got it on my calendar. Barbecue location is yet to be determined, but of course you're always invited, and I hope to see you there.
Awesome. See you guys around online. Thanks for having me today.
You bet. Cheers. Bye-bye. Thank you, Paul Brody. Awesome chat as always. Well, it is time for this week's Doots. We're going to jump right in. Interweaver explains how Ethereum's fee markets work. He is a Dooter 51. He crossed over 50 Doots on this day. Congratulations. Congrats to Interweaver. Just a quick recap on how fee markets work in Ethereum, both for block space and for blob space. There's a base fee, which represents the current state of the fee market. That base fee sets how much of a unit of gas costs for normal transactions, which use block space and disregarding tips, or how much a blob costs. There's also a target amount of resource usage for normal transactions. That's the target gas, which is 15 million units of gas, which is half of the max gas per block, which is 30 million. And for blobs, it's currently 3 blobs out of a maximum of 6. Each block, the actual resource usage, whether it's gas or blobs, ends up being some number 0, which is less than or equal to the amount, which is less or equal to the max. which will be either greater than, equal to, or less than the target for that resource. Here's an important part. If the resource usage is greater than the target, for example, 20 million gas used, which is greater than the 15 million, or 5 blobs instead of the target 3, the next block, the base fee, blob fee for that resource will be higher by a certain percentage. The opposite also applies. If the resource usage is less than the target, the base fee, blob fee will decrease by a certain percentage. It's actually kind of genius. This means that Ethereum's fees automatically adjust to demand. If there's high demand, aka more users willing to pay higher gas fees for normal transactions, or more L2s willing to pay higher blob fees for blob carrying transactions, then you would expect to see usage exceed the targets, and the next block will have higher fees until the fees become too much and the demand at that fee level comes back to the target. If there's low demand, in theory, the opposite occurs. It indicates the resource is currently overpriced relative to supply and demand, and so the next block will have a cheaper base fee, blob fee, hopefully encouraging more usage in order to meet the target. This has worked out well for gas fees because Ethereum has plenty of pent-up demand for transactions that are willing to wait for cheap gas. There's never a lack of transactions ready to be submitted when base fees lower. However, I said, quotes, in theory, because blob fees are in a different situation currently. The mechanism works the same as with the base fee, but L2s are currently not creating enough demand for blob space the large majority of the time. This means that even when blob fees are extremely cheap, the minimum it can go to 1 way per blob. There's simply not enough blobs being submitted for the average block to meet its blob target, which is 3 blobs. And if you'll recall, this means that the whole blob fee would continue to go down in the next block, except that it's pinned at the minimum. So observe this highly binary situation. Either there is enough demand for a resource at all times, that Ethereum can always make sure it's on average meeting its target usage for that resource, or there is not. Block gas currently has enough demand. Blobs currently do not. And observe what this means for fees. If there is enough demand for the resource, the fee will stay floating at some fair market rate, much greater than 0. And Ethereum can collect and burn those fees. But if there is not enough demand, the fee will bottom out at roughly 0 and stay there, except during occasional spikes in demand. That's where we're at with blobs right now. And crucially, observe that this is a switch that can and will flip itself at some point in the future. When blob demand from L2s and other users increases past a critical threshold, namely 3 blobs per 12 seconds. Once the average demand exceeds that, Ethereum will instantly enter a regime where blob pricing needs to follow market rates rather than being pinned at 0. And as we all know, L2s are very insensitive to blob pricing. During recent blob fee spikes, we saw certain L2s paying absurd prices for their blobs. Think multiple Ether for each blob. This is likely due to them not putting appropriate limits or weights in place, but it illustrates the point. L2s, with their high compression ratios of L2 transactions to L1 commit transactions, are able to pay much higher fees than ordinary transactions on L1 are. So putting it all together, blob fees will be 0 until suddenly they are very much not 0 when demand for blobs passes a certain threshold. And L2 growth over the past year has been fairly exponential. We will pass that threshold in the near future, potentially delayed somewhat if we raise the blob target in Pectra, albeit. All the hand-wringing about how Ethereum is not capturing value from its L2s will seem like a very silly concern not too long from now, in other words. And that is a banger about fees in the Ethereum market by Interweaver. Thank you, Interweaver. H. Suki warns us of a U.S. crypto tax rule change. Oh, great. Here we go. Duder number 29. All right, here we go. Effective January 1, 2025, all taxpayers will be required to track cost basis at the wallet level. In other words, if you have ETH in wallet A and ETH in wallet B, and then you sell some ETH in wallet B, you cannot pull the cost basis from wallet A. So each wallet is treated as a separate tax bucket. This only applies to FIFO. That's first in, first out for all of you lovers out there. Most of you who transfer assets between wallets and accounts will likely not be able to use FIFO or use specific ID. Based on my limited understanding of this, honestly, my accounts will be in a bit of a mess and probably cannot FIFO due to this rule. Okay, belligerent Chocobo responds, what a complete cluster and a royal effing pain in the ass. And even if the end result will give us more flexibility in assigning basis to sales. And no one is even talking about this. So many folks are going to be caught off guard by this if they get audited, but I really appreciate you mentioning this here. I had no idea. I'd like to take a moment to show you Ethfinance. Stick around, belligerent Chocobo. You can find all kinds of great information. Also, you're a duder number 4. You already knew that. Hsuki, yeah. So there's a lot of conversation on this. So be sure to follow up at dailydoots.com. Check out Hsuki's warning of a tax rule change coming to a doorstep near you in 2025 in the United States, of course. The Hans Gruber talks staking with Node Set and Rocket Pool. Hans Gruber is a duder 30. About an hour ago, I had the privilege to launch my first Node Set validator. Hey, and we got some claps for that one. Good. There are over 500 now, and the limit per operator has just been increased from 4 to 5. I'll have to wait 24 hours, give or take, to launch my second, but as long as these big deposits keep flowing in, I will keep launching mini pools. It may seem far-fetched now, but operators running 100-plus mini pools each is not out of the question. Adoption can happen fast. By the way, these ops are sharks. There's a script floating around that checks the pool for deposits, and if gas is favorable, we'll automatically launch another mini pool. I launched mine manually, but I am in the process of setting the script up for myself as well. The Rocket Pool deposit pool, which has been bloated for the last several months and been a drag on our ETH APR, has been cut in half in 2 weeks. And XRETH hasn't even been integrated into DeFi at all. Really proud to be playing a small part in this fine group of operators. On top of that, the Saturn Zero upgrade that's coming in a few days is going to further reduce the deposit pool, as new mini pools will lose the RPL requirement. Basically, it's been a nice little Saturday, ignoring the FUD, watching Vitamin B go ham on ship posters. Oh, is that the bro comment on Twitter that Vitalik, I get it. He calls him Vitamin B. Going ham on ship posters, launching pools. I got my database and GUI up and running on my little projects. Blops 6 released, and they brought back round-based zombies, which is the only way to do it, in my opinion, and I'm loving the 90s aesthetic. I might go for some ice cream later. Who knows? The ticker is ETH. What a post. Very good. That's my line, too. I think I'll go celebrate with some ice cream with sprinkles. Oh, Hans Gruber, good job. User 696ETH is in the house and on the weekly. We got the EV Mavericks best achievement so far. Top accomplishments of EV Mavericks in the year of 2023. Number 1, the withdrawals NFT drop on Arbitrum was created by Nene Baby and Etherator to celebrate the Chapella upgrade and being able to withdraw our ETH from the staking contract. All the funds raised 9.7 ETH went to public goods. Hey, that's cool. Did I buy one of these? I don't remember. I gotta go check my wallets. I think I might have. I'll have to go look. Cool. Build-a-thon. This is point number 2. Withdrawals, public goods funding Open competition for anyone that wanted to build for public goods or services on Web3 with prizes totaling 9.74 ETH. There we go. We had a 3-way tie, so all of them are winners. Lidont, our ETH Skimmer, and EV Mavericks Origin received 3 ETH each. Honorable mentions go to projects such as Byte Guide and TwitterBot. Very cool. Let's see. We've produced, started the Weekly Dots Roundup podcast. Okay. Weekly Doots podcast. I think it was just a misspelling. It's okay. We've produced more than 40 episodes with a variety of guests. This is actually episode 85. But I can't even believe it's that. I can't believe that Tricky Troll has done, what is it, 900? He's going to be at 1,000 days sometime soon of daily Doots. That's so cool. Number 4, creators Doom Fuzz and the Ben Meadows collaborated with Fake Rare Decal for season 1, created 68 editions of EV Mavericks Decal. Oh, cool. Those would be neat as like a real life sticker. Those are neat. Nice job. Let's see. Chad Fun was birthed. The DAO managed portfolio managed by DGens. Rocket School, a website. These are all, gosh, there's so many great projects in the Mavericks community. This was one of them that I helped out with. Interweaver's name was mentioned. Austin ST, Doubt Stars Are Fired. I think Logri was helping out a little bit with this. And so Rocket School is how to stake on Rocket Pool is a 24-part video series complete with a website. And I think we need to do a second one. Update the curriculum because now you don't need RPL tokens. And the DAO treasury is now worth 79,000. It's grown 155% since the 1st of August. Damn. Without NFTs, if we're available, blah, blah, blah. Good stuff, treasury. Bright on Blocks, other notable events. One of our creative members, Hey, dropped his collection, Bright on Art Blocks, that ended up doing very well, and many Mavs got their Bright art as if they were eligible. So, ooh, those are cool. God, kind of play with your eyes. Very pretty. Nice job. EVM such as the A word, helping out fellow Lions when they are in need or fell victims to scams and hacks. Yes, that is the testament of that man right there. His integrity knows no bounds. At the end of the day, it's about the community and social aspect, and we are lucky to have such generous and kind members in our pride. If you have ever had a chance to meet the A word, he is the warmest, kindest person. You could just tell he's just good soul. Your mama is very proud of you, sir. Celebrated the 1-year anniversary by doing a Lion Pride where we encourage all EVMs to wear their lion for the week. Besides that, we ran some raffles of EI pandas. Can I task somebody in here in the Mavericks community? Will somebody take some of that DAO treasury and start designing a shirt? And I want another. I like my Maverick shirt, and I don't wear it too often because I don't want it to fade or anything. But it'd be cool if we could get some, like, I don't know, Cafe Press, or I don't know what it would take to just. I like to be able to order one on Amazon. There, I said it. Can we do that? Is there a way to do that? Somebody knows how to do that kind of stuff. Maybe just make it on our own. I don't know. I got a print shop locally that I use for a lot of things, but I don't think it's a good idea for anyone to be tasked with like getting home addresses for crypto holders. It just seems like a bad place. So we'd have to use like whatever the kids do these days. I'm back in my boomer days in the internet. I think it was called Cafe Press, where you submit a design order, a shirt, blah, blah, blah. But it'd be cool if there was like a Mavericks owned company or somebody out there that works in that kind of stuff. Be neat. I want a new shirt. Also, new shirt, especially if we end up doing the R Ethereum thing and that really takes hold, because I think we have to have a pretty strong conversation about retaining ownership of Ethfinance, but maybe setting it to private and just have all the traffic on our Ethereum, especially if moderators can work out a plan that everybody can kind of agree on the best practices over there. Well, it's going to be a long road between that happening. And I want to maintain this podcast and kind of just work it. I don't want to moderate two different subs. I've already left ETH Staker as on the mod team to try to open up some bandwidth for our Ethereum. And I'm excited. I'm really excited. This is like the reverse split. It's kind of the reverse of the ETH Trader, Ethfinance thing. It's like we're going back home. It's like a warm hug all over again. We just got to work it out. All right. There's moderators of both camps, and we've got to come together and figure it out. That's all I'll say about it. Good. All right, 696. Let's see. Whack Whack Attack introduces us to tomorrow's big rocket pool upgrade. I'm going to do the TLDR. You no longer need RPL. You can take all of your 16 ETH mini pools and turn them into 8 ETH mini pools, and you do not need any of the RPL tokens. It's awesome, and you can mint our ETH directly from the Rocket Pool contract. There you go. Logri the Bard, here he is, ladies and gentlemen and lady. He's got the Rabbit Hole Explorer's Guide. This is I need to close the other tabs here. So the Rabbit Hole Explorer's Guide is it's done. It's minted. He's got it right here on the Reddit. Let's go ahead and jump into some of this. Recommended first steps. Up until now, I've covered a frighteningly lengthy sequence of things not to do and ways you can lose everything. To conclude, let's focus on what you should do to get started. What should you do to get started? What's in your metaphorical backpack so you can be prepared like a good little Boy Scout? Where should you go exploring first? Well, curate your feed. Generally speaking, my feed consists of 3 things. Project introductions. This is mostly from YouTube for me. My list changes over time, but it has included Bankless, Bell Curve, and some much smaller accounts like Jordan McKinney. This type of content is often very biased, so don't expect too much from it besides background context on the project, what they are doing and how it's novel, and the bull case. They usually aren't going to compare themselves to their peers here or tell you how the project might fail. This will give you a list of things to research more deeply. Number 2, official announcements. I check my Discord, Telegram announcement feed every morning. Build up a list of tabs and clear it by the end of the day. Sometimes I'll hear about new projects from partnership announcements. Number 3, discussion. This is where people get into the most trouble. Don't let a social media tech giant direct your learning. Price of a project being shilled, especially on short horizons, is a terrible metric for the quality of a source. You might think to follow technology leaders, but without enough background, you're as likely to start following Charles Hoskinson or Richard Hart as Vitalik Buterin. They all sound convincing to the uninitiated. What I recommend, rather than look for technical and wealthy people to instead look for project experts other than the team members that post about an application or ecosystem you already understand. You need to be able to make sense of what is being said and make an informed decision about whether they are saying it in an intellectually honest way. Personally, I'll also actively talk with community managers and members of projects, but I'm looking for much deeper information or collaboration opportunities. You're never going to find a Microsoft dev to ask questions to, but you very well might find and ask questions directly to a project founder in Web3. Okay, hands-on learning. Undoubtedly, the best way to explore the rabbit hole is to go there yourself. As I have hopefully gotten across by now, focus on survival. Learn with small amounts to limit the liability of beginning mistakes. Start with stablecoins where you can to avoid price volatility risks. Start with older projects and projects with higher total value locked because they tend to be safer. Start with simpler applications in an attempt to be helpful Getting you started here is a bunch of things to search out yourself, sorted into categories by relevance to you, and then roughly by approachability and importance. DeFi, number 1, money markets such as Aave and Compound. Number 2, DEXs such as Uniswap and Curve. Liquidity incentives farming such as bribes, bonds, marketing, and points. Leverage such as Gearbox, DeFi Saver, or GMX. Options such as Lyra or Hedgic. Real-world asset protocols such as Centrifuge and Maker. And finally, regen finance such as Gitcoin, Grants, Greenpill, and Climate. Sorry, I'm a little congested. I was working in the dust 3 days this week. And 1 day out of school. So I probably got a little bug too. All right, next section is digital identity. The Ethereum name service, ENS, basically a human readable address. The Ethereum attestation service, or EAS. Let anyone prove that you or someone else claimed something. Number 3, Sybil resistance systems such as WorldCoin, Bright ID, Proof of Humanity. And number 4, achievements such as Rabbit Hole or Layer 3. And then he's got a section on NFTs, gaming, meme coins, DPIN, enterprise, foundational tech. Guys, this is like a master class of things you can do. Review prior scams. After every hack, you'll find a postmortem. Yes, those are always interesting. You should bookmark these when you find them and swing by every once in a while as you level up until one day it clicks. Occasionally, you'll even find useful summaries like this one, and there's a link that info dump many of these in one place. Let's open up this tab, see what it be. There you go. Suki has a huge mega post here of all the different styles of hacks. Bridge hack, persistent spear phishing attack, plus a homoglyph attack. Home break-in with armed attackers, the oldest of all hacks. Address poisoning, a test transaction. Those are freaking crazy. Address poisoning. Liquidity pool was hacked. Warpcast frame, supply side hack, and on and on. Over time, if you follow the advice here, you'll know more than 99% of crypto Twitter on a good variety of topics. You'll be able to take measured and deliberate risks, and you'll fall into communities that share your values. You'll probably meet some of these people in person at conferences. Here. You may end up getting a job here. You may end up not needing a job at all. You'll definitely find sources of joy and points of light in an otherwise dark world. Whatever happens, you will be changed in ways you aren't expecting. I hope you'll come away a better, happier, and wealthier person. You can find the whole thing at this self-serving link, which is tokenomicsexplained.com. Beautiful job, dude. Nice. This is huge. I mean, we just touched it.
That's a fucking book.
Yeah, we touched just like the tip of the iceberg of the entire writing here. So how many months did this take you?
Well, I haven't had as much time for writing as I'd like, but it was at least 6.
Yeah. Well, yeah, we're everybody's busy and you're putting in the work outside of work, so good on you. Thank you.
Yeah, that was just a weight off to get it finally out the door. But I have other good news. I think that we're going to be getting an animator to take those various sections, each of the sort of tidbits of wisdom, if you will, each of the pages in the book. We're going to get an animator, and we're going to make something that is just on one of them at a time, like 2 to 3 minute, segment videos that cover just that section, and make it more approachable. Make a collection of those videos.
Cool.
I'll probably be doing some voice work for that, and we'll be see if I can get that at somewhere like the EY conference, for example. They've had some of my writing in the past at like intermission breaks, get it spread more widely, and then hopefully I'll be able to apply for some retroactive good funding to pay for the educational content on it. Right? This is not something I can otherwise monetize, and it's good for people to know these things. Saves a lot of money, should help the ecosystem grow. So I hope it would qualify for some education funding either through the EVM DAO or from Gitcoin grants or something. But yeah, we're not totally done with that. We're just starting the next leg of what's going to be working on there.
Good for you, man. Great job, as always. And you should share it over on our Ethereum too. There's really no reason.
Cryptocurrency too. Almost, I mean, other than the last little map section, very little in there was Ethereum specific, right?
Yeah. I don't know if I mentioned earlier, but we did institute a daily thread. It's basically like Ethfinance's daily thread, but so far it's much more stripped down. But they are allowing. So Evan Van Ness got it started, and then Evan Van Ness stepped down, so he's no longer a moderator over there. He helped get the ball rolling, got the daily instituted, and then he left. So you can feel free to be in both places, and certainly this is a top level post thing as well. Their dailies obviously small because it just started, and there's a culture to create there. All right, user EMP to B3. EMP, I'm trying to figure this. EMP to B3 shares their unlikely solo staker journey. This is a duder number 2, relative newcomer to the dudes list. After the merge, I started looking into staking, but the only internet options at the time weren't great, and I don't have a tech background. Had never used CLI, etc. Geez, are you me? I saw several posts talking about how anyone can do it, but really didn't think that could apply to me. I looked at the summer ESAT guides, and they looked very thorough, but I quickly became overwhelmed. Well, fiber internet without data cap was installed in our neighborhood, and I decided it was time and was worried that all nodes would be cost prohibitive with Saturn 1 for Rocket Pool, allowing for 4 ETH validators. People in the Rocket Pool hardware channel helped me find an appropriate setup, and following the Rocket Pool guides, I was able to get up and running on Haleski testnet. My questions in the support channel were answered within minutes. Yes, I'm going to do a freaking editorial comment here. The Rocket Pool support channel has 2 or 3 people that are like permanently online in there, and they are wonderful. Patches comes to mind. There's Hoobaloo they're so helpful, and there's other community members that are really helpful too. I should also mention that nobody will ever DM you on Discord to help you out for any reason on any staking stuff. It's just not going to happen. It's a scam, so be careful. Now he goes on, or she, or they, or whatever. Now I'm on mainnet, and I'm obsessed with starting at my Grafana dashboard. Yeah, it feels good. The smart node stack is super helpful for someone like me that only had a vague understanding of what Linux even was. If you have been on the fence about running your own node, it really is possible. For me, the Rocket Pool community has been a great help, and I also found answers in the ETH staker community. Well, good on you, EMP2B3. Congrats on your staking journey. User Austin ST, freaking legend, ultra marathoner, guru, duder number 63, briefs us on his month ahead in Thailand and the reporting he will be doing. DevCon and friends, intro, and plans. Something I like to do when the time arises is to report on Ethereum conference happenings. For example, my ECC summaries. This started when I first attended ETH Denver. Yes, I remember. And I generally just attended talks all day, every day, took notes, and summarized my favorites. Now that I'm more involved on a day-to-day basis, my conference activities have become a bit more varied. And I find that if you're already in the loop, conference talks tend to just repeat info that's available in more detail elsewhere. But I still like to report on the talks that I find interesting, and can always find topics I'm less familiar with if I just step away from the MEV talks for a minute. Regardless of the technical content, I also like to convey a little bit of what these events feel like to attend for anyone who may be interested in the future. And finally, I hope to encourage Ethfinanciers to be the change they want to see in the sub. The sorts of summaries I write are the sort of content I also enjoy consuming here, and I'd always like to see more of it. Here. That is so spot on, Austin. So today I thought I'd hit on the broader Ethereum event structure. You see, I just arrived in Thailand and will be here for nearly a month doing Ethereum stuff. If you really want to, you can structure your whole life around bouncing from tangentially Ethereum related event to tangentially Ethereum related event. Some people do just that, coughs in Nixo, and would be better qualified to explain that lifestyle, but I think I'm getting a taste of it here. So I'll give a bit of an overview of what I'm looking at in Thailand. I don't think I'm going to read all this because I actually have to get going before too long. Please check out his post, especially if you're going to Thailand. If you want to learn more about Thailand through the eyes of an Ethfinancier, and if you want to learn about it through the eyes of an ASTIS relay manager, Austin ST is your cat. So good on you. And then he mentions Halarkhan in, I guess it's pronounced Phuket. I don't want to get striked. All right. I'll get my thoughts on Edge City once it's done. I'll report on Staking Summit. If it's interesting enough to warrant the post, DevCon gets daily updates for sure. HodlerCon maybe gets one summary at the end. Yeah, I'm going to be having too much fun. All right. Anyone else visiting can feel free to reach out whenever. Yeah, so there you go. Austin ST, staying a month in Thailand. Who would have thought? User Unthinkable Crypto is thinking about the next killer app. The Bridge acquisition by Stripe has really got me thinking where this space, particularly for ETH, is headed. It's becoming pretty obvious to me that payments across the world will start moving on chain. By the way, User Unthinkable Crypto is a Duder number 5. This is smart contracts and blockchain's killer use case, and I believe at least for the next 10 years. But these will primarily be done in USD for now. Stable coins are in the top 20 for holders of US debt worldwide. Good Lord. I believe on Bankless, they said above 95% of all stable coins are USD. Stable coins are exporting USD to the world, only making it stronger. And the war on inflation is all but won for now. So everyone feels pretty good about USD. But there is still the elephant in the room that is our rising debt. I love reading this article. It's a budget model. Wharton, University of Pennsylvania, EDU article by the School of Wharton last year saying that we have basically 20 years to turn things around. This is why no one really cares about ETH or BTC as money. I mean, I do. But the average person thinks, well, I have the USD now available to me, which has low inflation again, and I have 20 years before I need to worry about exiting USD. It's not even on their radar now, replacing USD. So this is a pretty long article too, but I'm going to keep going on this. So USD stablecoin use rise in countries that have inflation. We have already seen this on Tron and exchange-to-exchange wallets. What brings on everyone else on chain? Merchants and banks will love the settlement time of blockchains, but for most users, credit cards are already a great experience, and people love the rewards. But business owners don't like the fees. I'm interjecting that. I think this starts as a grass-led movement where independent merchants incentivize users to pay on-chain directly with discounts and tokens/NFTs, some of which will have utility. Coinbase seems to be the leader behind this with their wallet and best-in-class base experience, paying gas fees in USDC, covering transfer fees, and their SDKs and APIs. Though Stripe could really compete here, I remember the explosive growth of the headphone jack iPhone card reader. Beyond that, we really need a privacy solution, likely ZK, plus a regulated compliance framework for general banking, I believe. Credit card companies will likely move on-chain in the background too, but the average person won't know tap to pay with phones and cards will still be commonplace. And they will mainly be doing it to reduce their fees and settlement times as well. They will likely still charge the same take rate until they are forced to lower it from competition from people making payments directly. Got to keep the reward train rolling somehow. Opportunities for investment I'm looking for. Number one, incentive programs for payments. I doubt every merchant will create their own from scratch. Number two, usable directory of businesses that take stablecoins. Incentives here for being listed or accepting, ? Number three, compliance-enabled privacy. I think Coinbase, dominate in the short term, but then as fragmentation issues get cleaned up, as L2s in general dominate these payments because of the SDKs and developers behind ETH. ETH price will do well with increased usage, but look to see major increases in price for ETH from monetary premium in 10 years if the U.S. does nothing to address debts. Until then, we need usage and real payments. The user experience seems like it's ready. Now it's about making people want to accept and pay on chain and clean up the bad image that crypto is all a scam. Very well written. That was Unthinkable Crypto, relative newcomer to the Doots list at number 5.
Yep, great post.
User Crypto Currency also had our shit post of the week, if you recall from earlier when we read it first, because we saved the best for first. User Crypto Currency is a Deuter 104 writes, they introduce us to indistinguishability obfuscation. Boy, whew, that's a mouthful. I knew about zero knowledge proofs and fully homomorphic encryption already, but indistinguishability obfuscation is an insane new cryptography primitive I'd never heard of before. Basically, I/O lets you encrypt a program in such a way that someone can run it, but can never figure out the program's internals no matter how hard they try to analyze or decompile the program. More on this indistinguishability obfuscation, according to Vitalik. Quote, while it's still very far from maturity, as of 2020, we have theoretically valid protocols for it based on standard security assumptions, and work is recently starting on implementations. Indistinguishability obfuscation lets you create an encrypted program that performs an arbitrary computation in such a way that all the internal details of the program are hidden. As a simple example, you could put a private key into an obfuscated program, which only lets you use it to sign prime numbers and distribute this program to other people. They can use the program to sign any prime number, but cannot take the key out. But it's far more powerful than that. Together with hashes, it can be used to implement any other cryptographic primitive and more. My understanding is that with FHE and IO combined, remember the word of the day, indistinguishability obfuscation, IO. My understanding is that with FHE and IO combined, theoretically, someone could create a program that operates on encrypted data where the program itself is encrypted, and both the program and the data remain encrypted during the entire operation. So the program and data are both protected from the computer that is running it and storing it. And there's further reading on the Wikipedia. Math is crazy. And if I understand it properly, it's going to be insane for DRM. Digital rights management. I hope I got that right. Very cool. Treebeard says, not a super new idea. It's a couple of decades, maybe. Haven't seen much use of it, though, or an example of it. But, yeah. Okay. Thank you, Treebeard. Very good. All right. Lovely. So, I think that's it for this week. Okay. Well, thanks so much for subbing and subscribing and smashing the bells around here. Stick around after the live stream because we continue the party in the hotel lobby on Discord for a bonus hour of popcorn. It's a great place to hang out when the parents aren't watching on YouTube. Hi, Mom. On behalf of Ethfinance and the EV Mavericks DAO, and hopefully someday our Ethereum, my name is Jeremiah Nickel, a.k.a. JT. Cheers and big hugs from Kansas City.